Like and subscribe right now, or this spider will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. For centuries upon centuries, there have been stories of a race of giants that ruled over the earth years ago, and throughout history, there have been many depictions of them. Ancient Egyptian records refer to the old pharaoh families as a race of giants, considering the several giant tombs that were found after the mummies had already been looted. Today, we're looking at some of the very hard-hitting proofs that show giants once existed. Watch out for the first one, as it'll definitely shock you. Number 10. The Giants of Ecuador. Strikingly tall skeletons were uncovered in the Ecuador and Peru Amazon region and underwent an examination in Germany. Since 2013, the team has found half a dozen human skeletons dating to the early 1400s and mid-1500s, which measure between 7 and 8 feet, or around 240 centimeters in height. In late 2013, there was a rumor of another skeleton being uncovered in Loja province of Ecuador. A researcher traveled to the site and recovered a ribcage and skull of a female that had been exposed by flooding. The bones were thought to date to 600 years ago. The rest of the skeleton was located and once assembled reportedly measured 7 feet 4 inches. If you think that's all, you're in for a surprise. In 2012, another team of explorers and researchers discovered what they believed to be an ancient pyramid complex in a remote area of the Ecuador Amazonian jungle, one not known to anyone even in the country. Researchers believe the complex may be the lost city of the giants, so named for the large giant-sized tools that were found in the vicinity, as well as the local legends that speak of a race of giant humans who once inhabited the region. This city could be somehow related to the giant skeletons found. Number 9. The Dove Mounds. In the 1800s, reports began to surface of the discovery of very large skeletal remains in burial mounds in North America. During the 19th and early 20th century, newspapers frequently ran stories of gigantic skeletons found throughout the country. The Dove Mound in the state of Kentucky, USA, is a large Native American burial ground within which was found the 7-foot-tall skeleton of an Adena man. What was more interesting than his height was his abnormally elongated head and disproportionately large torso in relation to his legs. A Native American burial ground in Ohio, similar remains are found with incredibly tall men with elongated heads and disproportionately large torsos. These skeletons were described as reaching 7 to 8 feet or 2.5 meters in length, with a lower frequency of discoveries spanning 9 to 11 feet. Initially, the skeletons were thought to be of extraterrestrial origin, but science has confirmed these are definitely human remains. Archaeologists today still find similar remains at Native American burial mounds all around the country. Number 8. Lovelock Cave. Area 51 is not the only weird place in the United States. Nevada has it beat by just a few points. Colorful tales of the American West don't fade away easily, and even when they seem to have been discounted. Take, for example, the story of legendary red-haired cannibal giants whose alleged existence in the Lovelock area centuries ago has been debated for more than 100 years. The Peyotes, a Native American tribe indigenous to parts of Nevada, have an oral tradition that they told to early white settlers of the area about a race of red-haired white giants or barbarians that their ancestors referred to as the Siteka. The story was written down in 1882 by Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins, daughter of a Peyote Indian chief, in her book. These giants were described as being vicious, unfriendly, and cannibalistic. In this story, the Peyotes speak of a great battle that took place which led to the extermination at a site known today as Lovelock Cave. During the early part of the 20th century, archaeologists found thousands of artifacts inside this cave, leading to a lengthy excavation of the site and leading to some speculation that the Peyote legend was real. Number 7. The New York Giants. No, we're not talking about the American football team here. This video is all about giants. We'll come back to football in some other video, but we have to say the coincidence is unsettling. In 1871, in the town of Cayuga, the local newspaper reported on an archaeological dig that was taking place near the area. The dig was at a Native American burial ground which unearthed 200 giant skeletons, some measuring up to 9 feet tall. It was also estimated that the remains could have been up to 9,000 years old. At the time, the discovery of these remains was widely reported in the media when visitors claimed that they saw giant skeletons being raised from the ground by the archaeologists. But today, the remains have disappeared. Maybe all of them came to life and formed a football team called the New York Giants. What do y'all think? Number 6. Wisconsin Giants. Scientists are remaining stubbornly silent about a lost race of giants found in some burial mounds near Lake Delavan in Wisconsin in May of 1912. As reported in the New York Times in the 4th of May 1912 issue, the 18 skeletons found by the Pearson brothers exhibited several strange and freakish features. Their heights ranged from 7.6 feet to 10 feet, and their skulls were much larger than those of any humans that inhabit America today. They tended to have a double row of teeth, elongated heads, 6 fingers, 6 toes, and like humans, came in different races. This is only one of many accounts of giant skeletons found in Wisconsin. Number 5. Giant skull in Victoria, Texas. Although the majority of the articles on giants are dated between late 1800s to very early 1900s, making it very hard to track down a reference for information, one article from 1940 tells quite a clear tale. In the San Antonio Express, there was a story of a giant skull that's said to have been twice the size of a normal skull. The skull was unearthed after a large-scale archaeological excavation at the Moorhees Mound along the Guadalupe River in Victoria, Texas. When the head of records at the Texas Archaeological Research Laboratory was reached for inquiry about the mysterious skull, she claimed that the specimen was noted as missing from the collection and had been for some time, not even showing up in any of the inventories undertaken. Initially, the finding was recorded as a large skull in the now famous Moorhees Mound site, with reports noting that it was of unusual size. But now that the skull has vanished, you're not likely to find any mention in papers or official reports. All evidence points to a gigantic non-human skull, but the question is, where is it? Number 4. The Giants of Death Valley. In 1931, a physician by the name of F. Bruce Russell discovered some caves and tunnels in Death Valley and decided to explore them with his friend. What they first assumed to be a small cave system soon turned out to go on for 180 square miles. One of the first things they discovered was some kind of ritual or religious hall covered in strange hieroglyphics. But stranger still was the discovery of 9-foot-tall humanoid skeletons. The story was first officially reported in a San Diego newspaper in 1947. The remains were mummified and were estimated to be around 80,000 years old. However, the story quickly faded away along with the giants' remains. If this doesn't give you chills, number 1 definitely will. Number 3. Graveyard of Giants in China. In late 2016, archaeologists began excavation at a Neolithic site in Jiaojia, a village in China's Shandong province. At the site, they dug up enthralling finds, but what stood out most was a much later discovery. They found a graveyard that contained the bodies of several men who were 5'9" or taller. Now, while this may not sound to be much, the men would have been outstandingly tall for the age in which they lived. No pun intended. The remains date to about 5,000 years ago and were buried in very large tombs. One of the people found in the graveyard measured approximately 6 foot 2 inches. If by any chance he were still alive, he would have certainly exceeded 1.9 meters. While the details were small in regards to the average height of the Neolithic population in that day and age, these men were definitely giants compared to the average person. And with that, it's now time for today's subscriber pick. Today's photo was sent to us by a subscriber. If you come across a photo online, you want to know more details about it, just send it over to us. We might even feature it in a future video. Number 2. This seems like a very real picture of a giant head being discovered by archaeologists, but we can't say for sure that the head is authentic and the picture isn't photoshopped. That's because we couldn't find anything related to it on the internet which would back the originality of this picture. Many fake pictures of giant bones have been making waves on the internet, so you don't know for sure. What do you guys think? Does it look real? Let us know in the comments. Number 1. Giant footprints. One of the most famous giant footprints were found outside Mpulzi, South Africa. It was found 100 years ago by a hunter, and locals named it the footprint of God. The print is 1.2 meters long, and if the rest of the body was sized in proportion to the foot, the giant that made it would stand between 24 to 27 feet tall, like in Ecuador as we showed before. The footprint is in granite, which is one of the hardest rocks on Earth, and there are no chisel marks around it, meaning that whatever made the print must have stepped in the rock while it was still molten. It is estimated that the print could be anywhere from 200 million to 3 billion years old. If the correct age is at the upper end of this scale, the print was made when supposedly the only life on Earth was microbial life. But even at the lower end of the scale, it could not have been made by any human ancestor we know of. So, do you believe that giants once existed? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.